Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Amir Razi Babatia. I from EC1004L. So today I want to present my mini project that I do some experiment that provide in the mini project, such as water and moisture content test, particle density test, particle size grading and density test, field density test, and permeability test. So this is the video that I conduct the experiment during my day. So this is the background of the study for the mini project. So for the first experiment is the moisture content and particle density test to determine the specific gravity of soil using density bottle. The apparatus using in this experiment are density bottle, wash bottle, stopper, distilled water, alcohol, ether balance, vacuum sets, and constant temperature water bath. So the first step to do in the density bottle experiment is, firstly we must clean and dry the density bottle and stopper properly, and wake the dried bottle with stopper and record the mass as M1. Next, take about 10 or 20 gram meter of dry soil sample and pour it carefully into the density bottle and wake the bottle with the soil and stopper. Record the mass as M2. Pour about 10 ml air distilled water into the bottle and wait for 2 to 10 hours, and make sure remove the entrapped air by applying partial vacuum, and also wake the bottle filled with water and soil samples with stopper. Record the mass as M3. And next, empty the bottle and clean it up properly. Fill the bottle entirely with distilled water and make sure there are not entrapped air bubbles, and using the partial vacuum has to be used. So put the stopper and wet the bottle dry from outside and wake and record the mass as M4. Again, empty the bottle and dry it up properly. Repeat the step 2 to 11 for 2 observations to obtain an average specific gravity of the sample. This is the data of experiment. So for the next experiment is particle size distribution sieve analysis test. So the objective of the test is to be performed and determine the percentage of different grain size contained within the soil. The mechanical or sieve analysis is performed to determine the distribution of the coarser, larger size particles, and the hydrometer method is used to determine the distribution of the finer particles. The apparatus I used in this experiment is, first, a balance that readable and accurate to 0.5 gram set of sieve 75 mm until to the smaller 0.063 mm, cleaning brush, mechanical sieve shaker, lead and receiver pen. So for the first step is arrange according to the order of the size of sieve from the largest size above, which is 75 mm, to smaller, which is 6.3 mm of sieve. Measure the weight for each size of sieve and pen. Put the soil into a sieve that has been arranged according to the set of size and place into the sieve shaker machine. After, place the sieve stack into the mechanical shaker, and we must set the mechanical shaker with for the 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, measure the weight of each sieve of size, including also the pen. For the second stage, arrange the size of the sieve from the size of 5 mm to 0.063 mm, and make sure have measured the weight for all the sieve, and put the sand or soil that has been sieved before, put into the sieve that has been arranged. Place the prepared sieve into the sieve shaker machine and set the time for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, wake all the set of sieve and pen and the remaining of sand. This is example of the data. For the next experiment is field density test by sand replacement method. The objective of the experiment is to determine drasticity of in situ soil. The apparatus in the experiment is set of pouring cylinder or tower sand passing 1 mm and retaining 0.6 mm, hammer and spatula and nails. The procedure to conduct this experiment is, firstly, the site is cleaned and labeled using a scraper for an area of about 450 mm square, and the metal tray central hole is placed on the prepared surface. Also, using the central hole as pattern to excavate the soil using a trowel up to required depth, and loose soil is carefully collected until the container and its weight. So the sand pouring cylinder is refilled with sand such that its weight is regained. The metal tray with central hole is removed and the sand pouring cylinder is placed centrally over the excavated hole. The shutter is opened till the sand fills the excavated hole and the con completely until there is no further movement of sand in the cylinder. The shutter is closed and the cylinder is weighed so that the weight of sand filling the excavated hole alone can be found. Next, the moisture content of the excavated soil is determined by the taking of sample soil from the moisture content dish, weight dry in the oven at 110 Celsius and reweighing. The last step is the steps repeat 3 times and the average values will be the field density value of soil. This is the example of the data. For the last experiment is permeability test, which is falling head test. The objective of the test is to determine the coefficient of permeability of fine-grained soils. The apparatus I used in this experiment is falling head permeameter, standpipes, reagent cell, stopwatch, thermometer, bucket, sample extruder. Firstly, open the valve and fill the water into the standpipe to mark initial height of the standpipe. Record the initial reading for height H1 and time T1 before the commencement of the test. Open the valve 1, valve 2 and valve 3 to make sure the water in the standpipe fall down. After that, close the valve and start the test by observing the flow of water and time of the reduction. Once the flow of water reaches the final height mark, stop the time and record the final reading for height H2 and time T2. For the last step is close the valve and record the temperature at the time of the test and obtain the temperature correction from the table 1 to compute the average of K. This is the example of the data. So this is the discussion of all the experiment that I do for the mini projects. So firstly, for the particle density test, for the average specific gravity 6.46, and also we have to determine how porous it is or how many void it has jar. Must be completely full when filling up the density bottle. Must always clean and dry. For the next experiment is for the particle size grading and the density test. In the experiment, I get the percentage retained 12.08%, 14.50%, 40.76%, and 12.39%. The holes need to be in the same size and we must carefully shake the soil. Besides, for the field density test, the average wet density is 2066.74 kg meter cube. So we got the average for the dry density is 303.37 kilogram meter cube. So in the experiment also we need the soil has more space to make sure that the stick is full with soil, and we also make sure the soil is placed under the sun. So lastly, for the permeability experiment, we can discuss that the average of permeability is 7.725 multiplied with 10 power of -4 cm per second, and the experiment really need a standby, a stopwatch to take a time about the water flow down until the mark, and we also need to pour water to make first the soil is saturated. So this is the conclusion for the experiment: particle density, particle size grading and texture, field density and permeability. So for the particle density test, the objective is to determine the specific gravity of soil. And particle size grading texture, conclusion we got that the objective of the experiment is to achieve and determine the percentage of different grain size contained within soil. Next, for the field density, the objective is to determine the dry density soil. And lastly, for the permeability test, we can conclude that the objective of this experiment is to determine the dry density soil. My point of view for this mini project is I learned how to conduct the experiment properly for my own, and I understand the objective of each experiment that I do when I got the data for doing those experiments. In addition, this mini project also teach me how to conduct and write report properly by referring the guideline and the rubrics given. Lastly, all the duration time doing this project, I am very enjoy doing it because I got a new experience doing the test in my own by using the own apparatus. So that's all from me. Thank you for watching.